Los Angeles, January 15, 1947. A city still buzzing from the war's end, dreaming big under a false sun. But beneath the tinsel and the hopeful smiles, the shadows always stretched long and hungry. That morning, in the quiet, manicured lawns of Leimert Park, a young mother named Betty Bersinger was out for a walk with her 3-year-old daughter. She spotted something in a vacant lot off South Norton Avenue. Something unnatural. At first, she thought it was a discarded mannequin, eerily pale and perfectly bisected, lying face up in the dewy grass. But as she drew closer, the chill that snaked up her spine had nothing to do with the morning air. It was the stark, horrifying reality of what lay before her. The dummy had red lips, but they were painted onto a face that had seen too much, and into a smile that no living person could ever make. The scene was a tableau of unimaginable horror. The body, severed cleanly at the waist, had been drained of blood and meticulously washed. Each half lay about a foot apart, positioned with an almost artistic cruelty. The face, that's what clawed its way into the memory of every cop who saw it. A Glasgow smile, incisions cut from the corners of the mouth up towards the ears, giving the victim a grotesque, fixed grin. Her internal organs were missing, her hair carefully fanned around her head. This wasn't a crime of passion. This was a calculated, ritualistic act designed to shock, to horrify, to send a message. It was a killer announcing their presence in the most brutal way imaginable, turning a human being into a macabre piece of performance art on the city's green stage. The phone call to LAPD headquarters was chaotic, filled with the trembling voice of Mrs. Bersinger. Officers swarmed the scene, their initial disbelief quickly dissolving into grim determination. The air was thick with the metallic tang of dried blood and the unspoken dread of what this meant for the city. Captain F.A. Brown, head of the LAPD's Homicide Bureau, arrived, his face a mask of hardened experience, yet even he was visibly shaken. This wasn't just another murder, this was a declaration. The press, ever vigilant, began to circle like vultures, sensing a story that would sell papers by the millions. But for a brief moment, before the cameras flashed and the headlines screamed, there was just the quiet horror, the silent city, and the mangled remains of a young woman who had fallen prey to something unspeakable. The first order of business was to identify the victim. She had no identification on her, but the precision of the crime scene suggested a killer who wanted her to be found, recognized. Her fingerprints were taken, a routine procedure that would quickly crack the anonymity. Within hours, the prints matched those on file from a 1943 arrest in Santa Barbara for underage drinking. The name was Elizabeth Short, a 22-year-old drifter from Medford, Massachusetts. Suddenly, the mannequin in the grass had a past, a face, a history. A young woman who had chased the Hollywood dream, flitting from one short-term lover to another, always on the fringes of the glamour, never quite grasping it. Her life, much like her end, was a series of transient connections and unfulfilled promises. Once identified, the hunt for Elizabeth Short's last movements began. Detectives pieced together a fragmented timeline. She had been staying at the Biltmore Hotel downtown, an opulent hub of Hollywood life, until January 9th. Witnesses claimed to have seen her there, vibrant and hopeful, yet undeniably vulnerable. But after she checked out, the trail went cold. 6 days. 6 days of silence, of anonymity, before her body was discovered. What happened during those 6 days? Who did she meet? Where did she go? Was she held captive, or did she walk willingly into the arms of her killer? The lost week became a gaping wound in the investigation, a void that swallowed clues and offered only speculation. The city held its breath, wondering what dark secret those missing days concealed. The press, led by William Randolph Hearst's Los Angeles Examiner, descended like a storm. They didn't just report the news, they created a legend. Elizabeth Short was no longer just a victim, she became a macabre celebrity.
The nickname, the Black Dahlia, emerged from the dark imagination of a reporter, a sinister play on a popular film of the time, the Blue Dahlia, and Elizabeth's penchant for black clothing. The name stuck, turning a tragic murder into a noir fairy tale of horror. The sensationalism fueled public fascination, turning a real woman's brutal death into a grisly spectacle. The city was gripped by fear and morbid curiosity as the Dahlia's shadow stretched across every dark alley and every shimmering promise of Hollywood. The media frenzy, while sensationalizing the case, also unleashed a torrent of false leads and confessions. Hundreds, then thousands of people came forward, either claiming to be the killer or offering fantastical theories. Men confessed, women spun elaborate tales. Some were seeking notoriety, others were simply disturbed individuals. Each false lead, each dead end, pulled valuable police resources away from the truth. The LAPD found itself drowning in a sea of misinformation, rumors, and outright lies. The sheer volume of noise made it nearly impossible to distinguish a genuine whisper from the cacophony. The killer, if they were watching, must have reveled in the chaos they had wrought. Then, 3 weeks after the murder, a new, chilling chapter began. The Los Angeles Examiner received an anonymous package. Inside, neatly cut up newspaper words spelled out a chilling message from the self-proclaimed Black Dahlia Avenger. The package also contained Elizabeth Short's social security card, birth certificate, photographs, and an address book, all carefully wiped clean of fingerprints and mailed to ensure their discovery. Even more disturbing was a specific item, a pair of her shoes, polished yet still bearing the faint imprint of a muddy sole. The killer was not only taunting the police and the public, they were actively engaging, meticulously controlling the narrative, making it clear they were still out there, watching, listening, and playing a deadly game. The investigation became a labyrinth without a center. Multiple police agencies, including the LAPD, the FBI, and the District Attorney's Office, were involved, but often working at cross purposes, each jealously guarding their turf. Over 150 suspects were investigated, thousands of leads pursued, and countless hours spent sifting through the city's underbelly. The pressure from the public and the media was immense, leading to hurried decisions and missed opportunities. The sheer brutality of the crime and the lack of concrete evidence created a vortex of theories and speculation, each more bizarre than the last. The killer seemed to vanish into the rain-slicked streets, leaving behind only the chilling echoes of their monstrous act. Among the initial wave of suspects, names like Robert Manley, Elizabeth's last known escort, and even a former boxer named Mark Hansen, whose address book was found amongst Elizabeth's belongings, were briefly scrutinized. Manley passed polygraph tests, though his story shifted, and Hansen had an alibi. There were medical students, doctors, even a Hollywood producer or two, all connected by flimsy threads to Elizabeth's transient life. Each time, the trail grew cold, the evidence too circumstantial, the alibis too solid, or the suspect simply vanished into the vastness of Los Angeles. It felt as though the killer was a phantom, weaving in and out of the lives of the innocent, leaving only confusion and despair in their wake. Decades later, a new, compelling suspect emerged from the shadows, Dr. George Hodel, a prominent physician, a pillar of Hollywood society, connected to artists, filmmakers, and even gangsters. He threw lavish parties at his Frank Lloyd Wright-designed home in Los Feliz. His son Steve Hodel, a retired LAPD detective, would later painstakingly connect his father to the Black Dahlia murder and potentially other killings. George Hodel was a man of immense intellect, a master manipulator, and, according to his son, a sexual sadist with a dark fascination for surrealism and the macabre. The very precision of the Dahlia's mutilation, the artistic staging of the body, suddenly gained a sinister context when viewed through the lens of Hodel's known proclivities. In 1950, LAPD put Dr. George Hodel under surveillance, bugging his home, the legendary Franklin House. The recordings they captured were chilling.
Conversations hinted at nefarious activities, including the murder of his secretary, who had recently gone missing. Phrases like, "Supposin' I did kill the Black Dahlia, they couldn't prove it now," were whispered in the dead of night. He spoke of avoiding the police, of leaving the country. The surveillance, initiated due to the disappearance of his secretary and suspicions of incest, inadvertently stumbled upon potential links to the Dahlia. But despite the shocking tapes, the police investigation into Hodel ultimately faltered, hampered by internal politics, a lack of direct evidence, and the very complexity of the man himself. He slipped away, eventually leaving the country, leaving behind only suspicion and questions. Retired Detective Steve Hodel dedicated his life to uncovering his father's dark past. His meticulous research, documented in his book Black Dahlia, laid out a compelling, if circumstantial, case against Dr. George Hodel. He pointed to his father's medical background, his connections to powerful figures who could protect him, and the striking similarities between the Dahlia murder and other unsolved cases in Los Angeles, like the short-lived lipstick murders of Chicago. He found photographs his father had taken of a woman resembling Elizabeth Short. The sheer audacity and precision of the crime seemed to fit the profile of a man who considered himself above the law, a genius of darkness playing a dangerous game with society. Yet, without a confession or undeniable physical evidence, the official file remained open, the killer's identity officially unconfirmed. The Black Dahlia murder remains one of America's most infamous unsolved crimes. It captured the grim fascination of a nation and etched itself into the dark mythology of Hollywood. It was a perfect storm of circumstances. A beautiful, vulnerable victim, a city on the cusp of glamour and decay, and a killer of monstrous creativity who vanished into thin air. The chaos of the investigation, the media's hunger for sensation, and the sheer volume of false leads all conspired to obscure the truth. Every theory, every suspect, every book only adds another layer to the enduring enigma, never quite unraveling the core mystery. The ghost of Elizabeth Short still whispers through the palm trees, a tragic symbol of lost innocence in a city that promises so much and often delivers so little. Decades have passed, the rain still falls on the same streets, and the neon still flickers over new dreams. But the shadow of the Black Dahlia murder continues to loom large over Los Angeles. It's a reminder of the darkness that can lurk beneath the brightest lights, a testament to the fact that some monsters walk among us, unseen, unpunished. Elizabeth Short, the young woman who came to Hollywood seeking fame, found only infamy and a brutal, senseless end. Her story is a cautionary tale, a chilling chapter in the city's history, a perpetual question mark etched into the soul of the City of Angels. The killer's identity may forever be lost to the shifting sands of time, but the memory of the Black Dahlia, the girl with the permanent, gruesome smile, will never truly fade.